Some are for younger students, so some of them had animals on them. Some are kind of Aztec, I guess, looking. Eagle feathers that we sent out to each school for them to color with their students.
And this is something that's going to happen at the school board today. What are you asking staff to do?
We're hoping that they can look and recommit at what truth and reconciliation means for our school board at the higher levels. We're also connecting it to the 7 grandfather teachings, so how those teachings embedded in who we are as people kind of connects to truth and reconciliation.
The feathers are already strung together and on display at Art Windsor, Essex. Can you explain what that looks like?
So there's over 2,000 feathers. When I first walked into the exhibit, I was in awe. So there's one big wall that has probably about 500, another smaller wall, and then a case that has about probably another 300 in it. So when you walk in, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, even just seeing the video, because it's on YouTube. I was watching the video before you guys came in, and I just was awestruck by just how impactful it is seeing all these feathers together. What goes through your mind when you see that?
Just connection, right? Like connecting our school board. And like I said, again, recommitting to what truth and reconciliation means, like for an individual, for the classroom, for the school, and then now for the school board as a whole. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Sienna, I invited you in because this art exhibit actually inspired you to do something. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, we have a Google Classroom with all Indigenous students for the Windsor Essex Catholic School Board. And basically, Fawn just made a post saying that she's looking for somebody to make a logo to represent National Day for Truth and Reconciliation Day. I wanted to make it as simple as possible, kind of just having the main point to be there. So just having like the name just big right there and then the feather over top of it. I also wanted to add in the turtles as it is one of my spirit animals, but also it means a lot to the Indigenous community. So one, it means longevity, wisdom, health, known for its longer lifespan, the turtle. So that's kind of how like the meaning comes in, but it also means a lot to Indigenous communities altogether. So also Turtle Island, so that's also important in there. So yeah, that's kind of...
So you made these stickers, they're
Yeah.
circle. What's going to happen with them?
So they are going to be distributed to the elementary schools and to the students and the teachers in the Catholic District School Board for that.
I think it's interesting that you're in the school board and you're working as an educator and you're working as a leader with other Métis students at a time when we're really challenging the way we look at how Indigenous students were treated in the school system. And I'm wondering how you bring that into your day-to-day, every day. It's not just Orange Shirt Day.
Right. And I think it goes back to what I was saying, the grandfather teachings of how sacred they are, of just being loving, having humility, having compassion, and working with the students to reconnect with the community, their elders, their own way of knowing and being.
I think it's also kind of important too to kind of like keep up with like these days as well and to not like forget about what it was back then and still sometimes now and what they're still finding residential schools now, right? So I think it's really important to keep up in the history and to make sure that we're never forgetting what these students, these Indigenous students and children were facing throughout the time as well.
You're also a unique generation because I often feel terrible that we didn't learn the proper history in high school. You're in a generation where you're learning the proper history in high school, and we're going to look to you to carry that forward. Do you see that from where you are?
For sure. I think now that the truth is like finally out there and there's more truth now being put out there, I think now we're getting to a point of actually recognizing what Indigenous students actually then faced, right? Especially going back to my grandpa, it wasn't talked about, right? He didn't want to talk about it because they were punished if they talked about their culture. They were punished if they were talking about their ancestry, whatever, right? So I think it's very important that we're recognizing this and being truthful, like, hey, this is what happened. Like, we're not hiding it anymore, right? So I think it's really important to put it out there.
What are your thoughts on that, Fawn?
Yeah, I think as a school board, just the recommitting of what have we been doing really well and what can we change? Like, what are the barriers still that we face in all the levels of like hiring, of representation. So yeah, I think that's why this is so important. It's kind of us recommitting as a school board of like what does that look for like to us, not just check marking things. It's like we really want to make sure that we are doing it properly and we are doing it with compassion and we are doing it the right way.
And Sienna, you are on the Windsor Essex Council of the Métis Nation of Ontario. Why is it important for you to not only stay connected to being Métis, but be a part of leadership in that?
I think it's very important because my grandpa was one of the founders and the starters of the Métis Council. That probably started in the early 1990s. I want to say the Windsor Council. So he was one of the ones to help start it up and bring awareness to our area to get a council for our area. So I just remember being 4 or 5 years old, when my dad was the president, just kind of getting in the meeting room, sitting the corner, drawing, or just listening into the meetings. And it's kind of always been a part of my life. No matter if I went once a month, every couple of months, whatever it was, I've always kind of been a part of the council or the Métis heritage some way, no matter what, whether it be the meetings, the activities that we did, the kayaking that we did, whatever it was, the art that we did, whatever. So I think it's also really important to continue this as I grow up. And I think being one of the youth reps as we're trying to start up the council again for the Windsor, Essex to Chatham, Kent, to start up that council again. So I think it's really important to try to be one of the leaders to help start the council back up again.
How are the efforts going at trying to restart that chapter?
So it's been a process, right? It's just kind of reaching out to people, saying who wants to volunteer their time to go on to the council again, and kind of who wants to take this opportunity to reconnect with our culture. So I think we have a big meeting with some head people in Ontario coming down to Windsor region in October. So they'll be coming in and we'll be having a meeting just talking about trying to get people to come back in and hopefully finalize and start up the council again in Windsor.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having us.